It's 2025 and you're planning your Cedar Point vacation. Top Thrill 2 is set for relaunch. Siren's Curse is hopefully going to be opening again this year also. And then also, Cedar Point is now a Six Flags park. So how do you begin and what do you need to do? Well, that's where I am. I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited. Let's get into this. So in this video, I'll be running over Cedar Point from start to finish. How do you get there and what happens while you're there? We'll be talking itineraries. We'll be talking all kinds of things about Cedar Point, every single possible detail. We'll be discussing food, what you should wear, what you should do, shows, all those different details. So stay to the end to hear different itineraries about what your day should look like and different thoughts about what I think might actually happen this next year. This is now going to be my 6th year doing this YouTube channel, and I've been to Cedar Point long before then also. So this is also going to be a huge video. So make sure that you have a drink, something, and some popcorn.
And maybe some popcorn.
Some sort of a snack. And let's get into it. Also, subscribe to see me test out all of this kind of stuff, and you can press that join button if you want to find out every single part about my Cedar Point experience. Every time I finish a video, I immediately send it straight over to members only. So if you press that join button and you join it at one of those tiers, you'll see all kinds of videos specifically about that. Also, as a member or Patreon subscriber to this channel, you are a vital part of keeping this channel going, helping me buy tickets and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys so much for what you do and for your support, but I also hope that you get some fun things out of that too. Anyway, that's enough housekeeping, so let's go. How to get there. Now, when you're coming into Cedar Point, there are kind of like 3 major arteries that get you there. You can take Highway 2, which is the closest highway into Sandusky. It goes right around Sandusky. You also have Highway 90. That is the biggest like major highway, and that is also a toll road. So it does cost some extra money on that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. And then also we have Highway 20, and that will take you either from the east or the west, one way or another. So all of those are good possibilities for you getting where you need to go. Now, all 3 of those roads really essentially go straight like through Cleveland on the east side. So if you're on the east side, that's pretty easy to know where that's actually going from. On the west side, it's a little bit different. I come from Indiana, so I take Highway 20 for a long way and then hop onto Highway 6 on the way in. If you're taking Highway 2, it goes through Port Clinton and kind of those like more coastal cities that are right up there to the north of Sandusky. And then that road goes straight around Sandusky. So that's a really easy way to get in. It actually ends at Sawmill Creek. So if you're going to Sawmill Creek to stay there to go to Cedar Point, that's a really easy way to be able to get there. Now from that point, then there are several roads that kind of are the easiest throughways to get in. The big one is Milan Road. I think they call it Milan Road, which is what it is here in Fort Wayne also, but I've always called it Milan Road. I think that's because that's what my GPS calls it. And then from there, there's weird stuff that Cedar Point has, and I talk about this every year. There's this empty land that comes straight from Cedar Point Drive, and it's like they've kept it empty all these years. And it could easily come up. The only thing they would have to get rid of, well, they could take it straight to Perkins Avenue at least. And if they wanted to actually take it all the way to Milan Road, all they'd have to do is get rid of either one business or a mini golf course. It'd be so easy for them to do it. And for some reason, it's like they've kept it there for that, but they've just not gotten rid of it. So I don't understand it, but for some reason they've still never built that driveway there. But instead, what you'd have to do is you have to come in on Milan, you have to turn right onto Perkins, and then it gets a little bit confusing. You have to go through some residential roads like Remington Avenue, and then you turn left onto, what is that road? Highway 6. Or you can go straight down Milan and then you turn right onto Butler Street and then you'll turn right again to get into Cedar Point. So either way, it kind of feels like you're almost making a circle. So it feels confusing on your way in, but it does get you to Cedar Point. Now, the other thing is, do you want to take toll roads or do you not want to take toll roads? For a long time, I had really good luck with Ohio's toll roads until last year. And then finally I was like, why am I spending money on the toll road? I'm not saving literally any time, because this last year, it was like every time I'd go there, there'd be a massive line. And I was only saving a few minutes anyway. Now, if you're coming from past Cleveland, you're probably gonna save a little bit of time. You know, like that may make sense for you. But either way though, like you don't need to probably take the toll road. The toll road is substantially more money, and then really it doesn't help save any time, or at least not much time at all. So for me in particular, I found a lot more luck just taking Highway 20 all the way in from Indiana. All right, so now our very first thing is our pass options. You do have to have a pass to get into Cedar Point, or you have to buy an individual ticket to get into Cedar Point. So like I said, we're starting from base one, and base one is that individual base ticket that you would initially need. So an individual ticket for an individual day would be $49.99 for its absolute floor cost. Now, if you, beyond that though, want to come in, you also have to park at Cedar Point, unless you want to take a ferry, which a ferry is I think it's like a $20 ticket, something like that, maybe 15 per person that wants to take the ferry from Sandusky to Cedar Point. That is an option, and it is something that you can do for certain amounts of time during the year. That is a like summertime kind of a thing. It is not something that they have that's available during the rest of the year. Like during the fall, it stops. So you need to be prepared for that. But if you want to come in, $35 per person, usually that's going to take up your pass one way or another. I mean, a summer pass is $99, gold pass is $130, prestige pass is $340. For one person to get a pass, it's going to essentially already be worth it on your very first visit. If you go the second time, then it's fully worth it because you get free parking with that. Now, if you have a bus full of people and you can all get in with one parking amount, like you have a large minivan or something like that, then that may be something that's more worthwhile for you to have everybody get an individual ticket for the day. But otherwise, you're looking at wanting everybody to probably have a pass, as long as you're going to be there for 1 or 2 times per year. So especially if you're coming more than that, then definitely you'll want to pass. Now, for passes though, there are several different options, and those all have to do with the different options that are offered within this. Now, you can get the summer pass. Like I said, the summer pass would not include Halloween, and it would only be good for the main season. It does not include access to Cedar Point shores. It does include access to the main park though. You can go into the main park as often as you'd like for Cedar Point, just not for Cedar Point shores during that time. However, if you went for the gold pass is going to give you a lot more benefits with that, including unlimited Halloween weekends. You can go as many times as you'd like, unlimited visits to Cedar Point shores, and then also there is all of these include free parking one way or another. You're also eligible for 2 pre-K passes with that gold pass. With the prestige pass, you get quite a bit more beyond that. You get preferred parking, access to VIP areas where you can sleep and relax and all that kind of stuff. You can also go to the water park and the water park VIP areas also. You get, of course, free parking. You get 15% off food and merchandise gold. It's 10%. And then also you get some additional pass perks that just get sent to you, and 2 free bring a friend tickets annually. That's like the biggest amount of value to me that you get because I can bring 2 friends just for free throughout the year at some point. You also do get a preferred entrance, which is like earlier on in the day. You have a pass that's all the way over to the right where you can enter, and that's at all the different places. Now, one thing I must caution you about is if you are buying a ticket at any place, any of the places where you might buy, there is different perks that they'll give you at different parks. Now, some of those perks are not able to be accessed then by other parks. So, like for instance, last year Cedar Point had a pass holders day where you could go and ride Top Thrill 2 early on before the season opened. If I had a pass that was from Kings Island and not from Cedar Point, I wouldn't have been able to do that. But since I bought my pass through Cedar Point, I was able to join that pass holders preview for that day. I still had to spend extra money with it. It wasn't like a full-on perk or anything like that. But there are different places that have different perks. So if you buy yours at Carowinds, or you buy yours at Cedar Point, or you buy yours at Knott's Berry Farm, it's going to be a little bit different than what you're going to get when you buy it from Cedar Point. Now, beyond that also, there are unlimited visits to other places, but the only way you get that unlimited visits to other places is by getting the All Parks Passport. The All Parks Passport is like an additional $100 charge, and sometimes it's a little bit more than that. It depends on which pass you're getting. And you can't just get right onto it. Like when I get onto this, it shows me how to do it, but it doesn't give me the cost of it, because once I buy the pass, then and only then will it show me then the other cost for the All Parks Pass. So the All Park Passport gives you the ability to go to any park no matter what. So you're not just paying the $130 Gold Pass, you're also paying an additional $100 to make sure, or around there, sometimes a little bit more than that, to make sure that you can then go visit any park. Now, beyond that, there are additional parks this year that we did not have last year because Cedar Point is now a Six Flags park, which means now we have Legacy Six Flags, which is the Cedar Fair parks. The old Cedar Fair parks are now called Legacy Six Flags parks. And otherwise, you're just Six Flags parks, which would be like Magic Mountain, Great Adventure, Great America, Over Texas, Fiesta Texas, and Over Georgia. There are more than that also. Otherwise, you get a roster of Cedar Fair parks that are available for you also, which is California's Great Adventure, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, Cedar Point, Dorney Park, Kings Dominion, Kings Island, Knott's Berry Farm, Knott's Soak City, Michigan's Adventure, Schlitterbahn, which is a water park in Galveston, Texas, and then also Valley Fair and Worlds of Fun. So those are all options for you to go visit. They're all a part of the network of parks now that you get to go see, not just with Cedar Fair parks, but now with Six Flags in general, which is just a ton of parks across the country. So there is a bit more value than there was last year, and the price, I do not believe, has changed. So we also need to talk about Fastlane. There are some options with Fastlane that you can get, and I know that Fastlane is like a big deal. A lot of people really enjoy Fastlane, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on in this video, so stay tuned to find out my thoughts on Fastlane. Now, with Fastlane, you have two different options. You have Fastlane Plus, and you have regular Fastlane. This is a very, very important distinction because a lot of people come to Cedar Point and buy Fastlane, and they buy the cheapest version of Fastlane, thinking that it's going to be something where they have a lot of rides that they can ride. The biggest rides, the rides that are the reason why you want to buy the Fastlane in general and at the beginning, is they're not included in regular Fastlane. So the rides that are not included at this point is TT2, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, and Valraven. Now, that's last year's stuff, but that's also been the last like 5 years, maybe 4 years. It's been TT2, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, and Valraven. I guess not TT2, that was added last year. But if you have regular Fastlane, those are not included. but everything else is included. All the other coasters, except for 2 that do not have Fastlane lines, and those are kind of the more family attractions. It's Iron Dragon and Mine Ride. So if you want to ride, Corkscrew, or you want to ride Magnum, or you want to ride, trying to think of other rides, Raptor, Gatekeeper, any of those rides are rides that are going to be included whether you have Fastlane or Fastlane Plus. However, if you have Fastlane and only Fastlane, you will not be able to ride with Fastlane, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, or Valraven, or TT2 if it comes up this year. Of course, though, you can still stand in the regular line to get into that. So if you wanted to wait the 2 hours for those rides, but you wanted to wait non-existent waits for every other ride, then Fastlane would probably be fine. Now, let me tell you though, it's still not a non-existent wait. But that's what the perception is that it's going to be a non-existent wait. You still do have to wait a little bit. So one way or another, yes, you're gonna get on those rides faster. If you, like my daughter loves Gemini, so maybe buying Fastlane for her would be great, just regular Fastlane, because she could ride Gemini as many times as she wanted to ride it. But it wouldn't work for the other more family attractions that I outlined earlier. So keep those both in mind. However, Fastlane Plus is an option. Fastlane Plus usually costs between $150 and $250 per day that you come to Cedar Point. So that is a huge investment. In relation to that, if you look at how much it costs for a yearly Fastlane, it's $999. So if you came 4 times and had a $250 cost for Fastlane, you might as well get that $1,000 for Fastlane all year for any park, all that kind of stuff. If you wanted to do that, that is much more worthwhile in my opinion. But yeah, $150 to $250 is a lot of money. We will talk about that later. Fastlane itself, I think usually sits more around the $99 range per day, sometimes even a little bit less than that. But like I said, I really don't think it's really worthwhile for you. That's why I usually focus only on Fastlane Plus, because that is what most people are really looking for. They want to ride those big rides without having to wait in a massive line for it. Now, at Cedar Point or in Sandusky in general, there are of course lots of hotels. However, there are 2, maybe 3 different kinds of hotels that you are going to find, and we're going to talk about those right now. Now, the first 2 distinctions I want to make is you're either going to be on Cedar Point's campus or you are going to be off Cedar Point's campus. So if you're on Cedar Point's campus, or at least you're in Cedar Point's hotels, because there are a couple that are technically off campus, it would be Hotel Breakers, Lighthouse Point, Sawmill Creek, Breakers Express, Castaway Bay, or the Marina. The Marina is like if you have a boat that you want to pull into Cedar Point, you can pull that boat into Cedar Point, or a yacht. I guess it would be a yacht, right? I'm not well versed in the language, sorry. But you could pull in there and you can stay there. They even have a hotel. They even have a pool there. They have a whole bunch of amenities for people who are staying in the area. Now, all of those also are going to have pretty consistent experiences, other than the Marina, because that's fully dependent upon your own ability to, upkeep your yacht and all that kind of stuff. But as far as Breakers and Sawmill Creek and Breakers Express and Castaway Bay, they all have relatively similar types of rooms. It's pretty nice overall. I'm not gonna knock them by any means. I do think you can find some things that are better for a cheaper price, but you do pay for the proximity to Cedar Point, especially staying at Lighthouse Point or staying at Hotel Breakers. You just have, you can go take a nap whenever you want to. You're right there for everything that you need. Everything is so easy. It's so great to stay at Hotel Breakers. I had the privilege multiple times last year to stay at Hotel Breakers with friends, and it's a fantastic experience because you can be tired in the middle of the day and you just go back to the room and take a nap, whatever you want to do. Now, you can arguably do that anyway on the beach if you wanted to, but there's definitely a lot less privacy and it's a lot less convenient than being able to go to your own room and, you know, change your clothes, do whatever you need to do. Now, on top of that, you do have the non-Cedar Point hotels, and the non-Cedar Point hotels are also broken up into a couple different options. Basically, they'd be brands, like the brands that you already know about: Wolf Lodge, La Quinta, Econo Lodge, Roadway Inn, Great Wolf Lodge, Kalahari, Quality Inn, Hampton Inn, all those kinds of things, Fairfield Inn. Those are all brands that you've seen, and they're pretty consistent across the country. Beyond that, then you also have local hotels, and these are owned by local people: Wolf Inn, Quality Lodge, Maples Motel, Hotel Kilbourne, Cedar Stables Inn, Cedar Cove, and those all kind of vary in the amount of quality that you're going to have with them. They also vary pretty strongly on price. Now, price is also a big sticking point with these hotels, because whether it is a Cedar Point hotel or not, you have a lot of very high prices for hotels in this area. Sandusky is a very expensive place to get a hotel because it's not like getting a hotel in Cleveland, where there's lots of competition for all kinds of events that are happening throughout the year. Cedar Point is very much concentrated to right now. So I was just looking at Google Maps at Sandusky to see what the different options were right now and the costs. A lot of these hotels that would usually cost $200, maybe even more than that, are sticking at like $120. Some of them I've seen down at $35. Some of the like more local hotels that are a little bit cheaper during the year. But during the year, cheaper means $120. So expect to pay a lot of money at Cedar Point for hotels, whether you're staying at a Cedar Point hotel or you are staying at a like local hotel in the area. Either way, you're still getting a pretty expensive hotel for what you're gonna get. Now, that being said, if you go a city or two away from Cedar Point or from Sandusky itself, if you're in Sandusky, you pay a premium for Sandusky hotels. There are several different cities that would be really good ones to go to, like Huron, Port Clinton, Catawba, Norwalk, Bellevue, or Clyde. If you go to any of those, you're going to find much cheaper options for you to go visit those hotels. But they're just not options that you're going to get at Cedar Point specifically, or in Sandusky, because everyone knows that that is the high time, and hotels are really, really in demand at that point. Now, beyond that, there are also a couple other options. Of course, there are RV parks in the area. There's actually a lot of RV parks. So you can go check those out if you have an RV and you want to bring those in. Again, same kind of thing applies. And then also you can go to an Airbnb in the area. I have checked out a couple of them. I stayed at one with my brother. Actually, I've stayed at both of them with my brother. So if you want to go check those out, of course you can, but you know, that's Airbnb is going to vary. I mean, you could have the same Airbnb, and from one year to the next, it's going to be a totally different experience. So it's really hard for me to say that those are ones that I can like really recommend or not recommend based off of my own reviews. However, the other hotels, I do have a lot of reviews of the hotels. I've done several reviews of pretty much I think all of the different Cedar Point hotels I have reviewed, other than the marina itself, and even then I've reviewed the different accoutrement that goes on with it. But last year I reviewed Kalahari, Great Wolf Lodge, I've reviewed the Wolf Inn, I've reviewed Quality Lodge, Maples Motel. I've reviewed a whole bunch of these. Even the Hotel Kilbourne, which is a really nice boutique hotel right downtown in downtown Sandusky. It's a great place to go check out. So go check out those reviews if you would like to. I have them all in a playlist on my channel down below, and I can link that up above also. Now, the other option that I have now done is you can stay in your car. And there are several places around the area where you can stay. I don't give specifics of where I'm staying. First of all, I don't want people to know exactly where I'm staying. But if you check out different options online, there are several places that will allow you to stay in their parking lots. So go check out different places with that. You can kind of stealth camp across the country or across the city if you want to for there. So I've stayed like a week at Cedar Point and just slept in my car for the entire time. It's exhausting. I'm not saying it's great sleep, but it is much cheaper than staying at a hotel. Now, immediately at Cedar Point, there are several different parking lots that you are going to find yourself in. Those parking lots are the main parking lot, the Cedar Point Shores parking lot, the Breakers lot, the Prestige lot, and the Marina lot. Now, those are all going to kind of have different positives and negatives with them. With the front parking lot, of course, that's where most people are. It's also where the majority of the parking spaces are, so it's easier to get to. Also, you can park there before the park opens, and it's pretty easy to be able to get into that parking lot for that. So that then you can be ready to get in line at the front of the park, or even go to one of the other entrances if you want to walk a little ways to get into the park at that point. That's all pretty nice and easy to be able to do. With the back parking lot, if you're back at the Cedar Point Shores parking lot, that does not open until the water park opens, or like maybe a half hour before the water park opens, something like that. So you can't get in there right away to get those parking spaces. So if you drive all the way to the back, they will tell you to turn back around and come back up to the front. So that is a big thing that you have to be aware of. Also, don't go back there and make that mistake. I've made that mistake before. I make mistakes so you don't have to. So that's why you should check out this channel. Because during the season, I will have all of these tips and tricks that I'll do, and if something changes, I'll find out first, and then you can find it out by watching the channel and realizing that I ran into an issue because I thought it was this way, but it's changed at this point. Now, the Prestige lot is usually closest to the beach, but it does kind of change throughout the year. Initially, it's actually a little bit in the middle, and I'll show you where the Prestige lot is in my B-roll here. But it's off kind of in the middle of the lot. So that's very easy to get into the front of the parking lot. However, during Halloween weekends, it changes. It no longer is there, and it moves all the way up to the very front of the beach parking lot. Now, I'm not sure that Prestige lot there is really worthwhile. I almost think it ends up taking some of the value away from it because you don't get in as quickly. However, you can walk to a side entrance, which we'll talk about where that side entrance is in a little bit. And that does make it a bit more worthwhile because they have multiple entrances, and that entrance is usually very low on people, so you don't have nearly the lines that you have to go into, especially the security line. And along those lines, there are 4 different main entrances, so we're gonna need to talk about those right now. First of all, you have the actual main entrance. That main entrance is going to have the biggest crowds. It's also going to be the easiest one to access for the majority of people. However, in the evenings, it's actually the one that has the lowest amount of crowds that are there. Like, for most of the time when you're wanting to come in for the average person, you're going to want to come in during the day. And for the majority of the day, it's gonna have the largest lines. However, in the evening, it actually does get shorter lines than most places, and that's because of one specific thing that we'll get to in just a little bit here. The Valraven entrance has the lowest amount of lines all the time, 100% of the time. And that is because it's very much out of the way. It is on the other side of the park from where most people come in. Most people either come in the main entrance or along the beach. They don't usually walk down the marina entrance, but you can go in over on the marina side. So if you go in over to the left, you could find some absolutely nothing lines over there where you could go in. I mean, I suppose you'd have to compete with the marina people, but now that I think about it, I've never gone in on the marina side, so maybe this next year, that's something that I need to do. Then we have the Windseeker entrance. The Windseeker entrance is the entrance that I like to use from Prestige Lot because you can avoid all of those lines. So you walk down the beach just a little bit and then you can enter right into the new boardwalk area. Those lines are almost always incredibly low. Also, however, they are not low during like very rare seasons. If they're having a special event out on the beach, or this year during boardwalk nights, they definitely had some longer lines. But that entrance is a great entrance to go into if you want to be able to get in quickly without having much of an issue. Hence the reason why it's a nice one with the Prestige Lot, because like I said earlier, the Prestige Lot is, especially at Halloween weekends, moved toward the beach. So from that point, you can just park right there on the beach and then, well, I mean, right close to the beach, and then just walk down the boardwalk a little bit and you'll end up on the boardwalk, on the new boardwalk inside of the park. The last one then is the Magnum entrance. The Magnum entrance has usually pretty low lines. However, they get crazy lines during special events. For instance, during Coaster Mania this last year, we all lined up right there at that entrance. Also for the pass holder preview for TT2, we lined up at that entrance also. So that is where you're going to line up and have your biggest amount of time where you're gonna have huge lines there. Also, it is the entrance that technically, if you're staying at Hotel Breakers, they tell you to go to that entrance to enter from. But you can go to the one to the south. Just a little bit, and if you go down to that one, the Windseeker entrance, you'll be able to get in a lot faster that way. Now, one other big part to remember is earlier I said that the main entrance gets low lines in the evenings, and that's true, but the Magnum line gets huge lines right around like 7 o'clock. I think it's usually 6 o'clock. Whenever the water park closes, the water park is gonna flood out with people, and immediately they all come into the main park, because if you can get into the water park, you can get into the main park also. So that one is a huge line and a huge time suck. So if you get there right around 6 o'clock, just ignore it. Just don't even go. Go down to the other line instead. Between like 6 and 7 o'clock, you're just gonna have massive lines there. It's not worth it to get in line for that. Just walk through Hotel Breakers, go to the other entrance, and you'll get in way faster that way. Now, the problem is, if you're wanting to get all the way back to like Steel Vengeance at that time, you're kind of wasting a lot of time through that. But I'd still say it's better, because otherwise you're just waiting for a whole bunch of people who don't even know where their cards are because it just came from the water park. It's just mass confusion. It never works out well. Now, make sure that you bring everything that you need into your entrance wherever it is that you choose that you're going to go in. Now, there are a couple things that I have that maybe you might need, but just make sure that you think through every part. And one big thing here also is remember that Cedar Point is a cashless place now. Do not bring in your cash, or bring in your cash and be ready to put them onto a ready card. The ready card stands are all over the park, so you can use those. But it is very important to realize that it is a cashless park. So many people, I've watched it happen so many times, they go to grab food for their families and they do not have money. So then they're just like, well, what do I do? Because I had this wad of cash for it, but I don't have a card for me to use. So definitely make sure that you are prepared for that, and make sure that you bring a card or a phone with all of your information on it so that you can buy things by tap and stuff like that. They do have that inside the park. Now, things that you might want inside the park are batteries, cords, snacks, wallets, your ID. You may likely need your keys also, and make sure that you have a change of clothes, especially for your kids. Now, for you, you may be fine just having to change your clothes in your car, or just walking around in wet clothes in general. But if you are going to be doing any water rides, especially with your kids, make sure that you have some way to get another change of clothes for them. A lot of this list has to do more with if you're a family, if you have your stroller there with your kid, it's important to have a few things that you're gonna definitely need to have for that family in that case. And some snacks it's okay to bring in. Even like if you are adults and you just have a couple snacks in your fanny pack, they're not gonna say anything about that. If you bring in a whole meal into Cedar Point, they're gonna have a problem with that. But like a couple of little like pretzels or things like that, they're not gonna have any problem with. Now there is security at all 4 of the entrances to Cedar Point. Your bags will be stopped, and if you have a stroller, you will be stopped. Now every once in a while I've had like a fanny pack or a crossbody bag and I didn't get stopped with it. It's very rare, but if I go through and I have my power packs like this, which is something that you also need. You need to have a phone that actually has power in it all the time now, because you use your phone for all kinds of things. So you need to invest in something like this also to go to Cedar Point. But if you have that with you, there's a good chance they're gonna stop you, even if it's just in your pocket. You know, it kind of looks like something that could hurt someone. So because of that, this is something that you need to be prepared for. They're probably gonna have you step aside and they're gonna check you for, you know, anything that's gonna be on you. Or you can also take out some of these things from inside your pocket and just put them in the tray next to you. And that's a good way to go through. It does depend on which entrance does depend on how they're actually going to work with you. Some of them, they just want you to go straight through, like the main entrance, they just want you to go straight through. But the other ones will not just have you go straight through. They'll have you empty your pockets before you go through because there are fewer people there. They're not worried about pushing numbers through as fast. Now make sure as you enter Cedar Point that you have your pass ready to go. Either your card or that you have your phone with a screenshot of your pass already ready. Otherwise, you're gonna just make things take longer and then you're gonna be in front of someone who's impatient and they're gonna just be like, come on, get moving, you know, stuff like that. And nobody likes that feeling of someone's waiting behind me. So just have it ready to go and then you can hand it straight to them. They can scan it and you're on your way into the park. Pro tip also, if you forget your pass, you do not need to run back out to the car or to leave the park if you do not have your pass. If you don't have your pass, you can walk up to the front gate, go in just like you would normally go, but on your way in, you just say, hey, I forgot my pass. I don't have it with me right now. Is there something I can do? Or I lost my pass, whatever. And they will usually just say, oh yeah, sure. What's your first name? And then they'll either ask you for your address or they'll ask you for your phone number. And then they can verify that it's you and there's a picture of you right there on it also. So they can tell that it's you visually and then they can also see you come through. And also you had more information about you with your number, phone number or address. So that will all work for you also. Just, you don't have to run all the way back to your car if you have forgotten it. You know, sometimes that's just necessary. I've forgotten it in a room before and just walked in because they were able to do that for me. There are locker locations all over the park. You'll see it right here, all the different locations that are there. There's one in front of Magnum, there's one in front of Gatekeeper, there's one at the very front of the park. That one at the very front of the park is going to have the bigger lockers there also, and that is also made for you to have it there all day long. They do not have movable lockers anymore. They only have like, I think it's like 2 hours. So you can have it in one for 2 hours and then you'll have to move it to another locker. But they don't have they used to have like a $10 all day locker. I wish they still had it, but they don't have it anymore. So those are important things to know. The front though, they even have like really big lockers for like $25 all day, things like that. You can just leave your stuff there if you need just a bigger bag to just put it away. So those are options for you up at the front. Also, they do sell out pretty quickly though, so be prepared for that and be ready to get there right away if you need one of those lockers. Now, there are 2 different special lockers that are specifically made for different rides. One of them is for Top Thrill 2, and the other one is for Steel Vengeance. Top Thrill 2 is a pay locker, and Steel Vengeance is a no-pay locker. Yes, it is free. The first time I heard about it, I was like, there's no way it's free. promise you it's not free. I'm gonna get there and they're gonna say it's free and then I'm gonna have to pay something for me to do it. No, it is legitimately free unless something has changed between now and this coming year, but it has been free for the last 4 years that I've been doing this, so I'm sure it will be free again this year also. Those lockers are made for you to be able to use before you get onto the ride. Now, Top Thrill 2 kind of ends up being like an extra pay-as-you-go kind of a thing. It's like a DLC to the experience of Cedar Point because you cannot bring anything. You can't bring this, you can't bring a cell phone, you can't bring your keys, you can't bring a card into Top Thrill 2's line. There is nothing that is allowed there, which means it has to go in a locker, which means you have to pay for that locker in order for you to get on Top Thrill 2, unless you have someone else in your party that's gonna hold your stuff for you, or you throw your stuff in a bush, which I don't officially recommend you to do. But do as I say, not as I do, children. Now, the only other caveat to all of that is that Steel Vengeance's lockers, sometimes when it rains really hard, it is a problem. So expect that if it's gonna rain real hard and you're coming in the next day after it's just rained, expect that those lockers are going to be underwater, because that's essentially what it is. It ends up flooding in that area, and then they can't open up the lockers until they can drain that of all the water. So they can open up Steel Vengeance, but they can't open up anything else. So because of that, sometimes you will get back there and they'll be like, our lockers aren't open. If you have anything, including a fanny pack or wallet or anything like that, it all has to go into the main lockers. That is a good time to ride that ride because it's gonna have lower lines because fewer people want to spend money on the lockers, but it's also a pain when you realize that those free lockers that are supposed to help you out are not available for that day. I've only seen that happen a handful of times. It doesn't happen all the time by any means. I've been there a lot and I've rarely seen it, but it does happen. So I want you to be prepared for it if it does. What to wear. Now, you cannot wear anything that has offensive language on it. This comes directly from Cedar Point's rule book. You cannot wear anything with offensive language, obscene gestures, or nudity. Also, whatever is worn needs to sufficiently cover undergarments. Again, comes straight from Cedar Point's rulebook. I don't understand what that means exactly. I have literally seen girls walking around with see-through pants on with pretty much thongs. It's like bathing suits, but like a thong underneath. So I don't know what you're actually allowed to do and what's not allowed to do. I'm sure it's difficult for the security staff to regulate what people are wearing all the time 100%. So one way or another though, that is technically the rule, and I want you guys to know specifically what the rule is. But there is something to Cedar Point that you really need to know, and that is that Cedar Point is in Ohio. It's in the Midwest, and our weather is notoriously it will change on a dime. There's a lot of times when you will have a certain kind of weather earlier on in the night, and then that weather, or earlier on in the day, I've come in and I've been oh, it's foggy and it's gonna be overcast all day long. So I come in wearing this. And by the end of the night, or by the end of the day, or by 5 hours later, I am just sweating like crazy because I wore this thick thing, which is why I wear an unbuttoning shirt. That is something that's very helpful to me because it's versatile. Anything that you can do to make something versatile for you is definitely worthwhile. So if that means wearing some sort of for a girl, wearing some sort of a kind of sweaterish shirt, and then having a cami underneath, so that then you can take off that shirt and then you can just have the cami on, then that's great. If you're a guy and you want to have an unbuttoning shirt, or you just want to wear a sweater with a tank top underneath, then that's a good option for you also. But I definitely recommend doing something that's versatile so that you can be warm and then you can take layers off and be a little bit cooler throughout the day and then put them back on if you need to. Of course, you can always take things out to your car, or you can get a locker inside the park if that is what's most helpful for you. One way or another, those things I think are very important. You can be shirtless. I should know. I do that all the time. That's become part of my brand. And yes, it is intentional. It's an intentional part of my brand. I'll explain it in another video sometime, but it is an intentional part of my brand. And part of it's even just body positivity. I just want to, be proud of myself one way or another. Whether you guys think I should be or not, doesn't really matter. So if you are shirtless inside the park, you're technically not allowed to outside of Frontier Town or Frontier Trail up to where the petting zoo is. You can have your shirt off all the way through there. Okay.
Because he's got muscles.
Is this guy gonna get asked to put his shirt on because
if not, there's double
he's got
standards
muscles?
here.
Or are they just discriminating against me?
Yeah.
No, he didn't get asked. Now Andrew's gonna do it. Is Andrew gonna get asked now? There's a double standard. Oh no, there's a double standard. We've discovered a double standard. I've been asked to put my shirt on back there, and you haven't, and he didn't. So we've discovered a double standard. Or it's just so hot that they don't care today.
Maybe it's still
or
hot.
something, I don't know. However, if you're inside the queues and it's an incredibly hot day and you have your shirt off, I mean, I've done that multiple times. I've seen other people do that multiple times. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time on the incredibly sweltering days of like the August sun in Ohio. And Ohio can either be incredibly cold or it can be incredibly hot. We don't really have a lot of in-between time. We don't really have a lot of like that perfect fall weather. It's either one or the other. Even during hot weekends, it's either incredibly hot or it's incredibly cold. You don't really have a lot of in-between time. So one way or another, definitely having those layers and being prepared for that is definitely worthwhile for Cedar Point. But yeah, like I said, if you're shirtless here or there, they're usually understanding of it from certain points. One thing I will tell you, which is something that I tell you with all kinds of things, especially when it pertains to any kind of breaking of any of the rules at Cedar Point. If someone tells you not to do it and they are on staff at Cedar Point, then don't do it. It's as easy as that. Just don't do it. Rarely is there going to be like totally contradictory stuff. Someone might be like, oh, it's okay. But if someone else says, no, don't do it, then just don't do it. It's that simple. Just follow what they tell you the rules are at that moment. Now, for the water park also, bathing suits are appropriate, obviously. I don't even know that there are really any rules of what the bathing suits have to be. As long as they cover up what they need to cover up, it's fine. Of course, as a guy, you can have your shirt off or do whatever you need to do. Wear that t-shirt in the pool. I decided I'm not gonna do that, but no shame if you want to. That's perfectly fine. So those are all options for you inside the water park. What to do? Cedar Point has 19 coasters and over 70 rides inside of it, and that's not including Cedar Point Shores, and that has even more stuff. So we'll talk about Cedar Point Shores in just a little bit, but beyond even all of the coasters, which obviously Cedar Point is known for tons of coasters, it's known for tons of attractions, they also have some incredible shows with people who are going into like additional entertainment from this point. I've seen people be professional dancers, go on to Broadway, go on to Universal Studios or Disney, go on to cruise ships from Cedar Point. So the second that you're watching them at Cedar Point, you're watching professionals who are really fantastic. And they really have had some amazing shows throughout the past. They have gotten rid of their main stage for this year. So I don't really know exactly what's gonna happen this year. It's kind of exciting. I mean, that's part of the fun of any kind of a theme park is that theme parks are never finished. Walt Disney said that about Disney World or Disneyland, is that it would be a place that was always evolving. It would always be changing. And that's the same thing with Cedar Point also. It's always evolving, it's always changing, it's always becoming something new and different, and that is very exciting. But this year, we're gonna have to see what's happening as far as entertainment goes. I have been told that this year they're gonna be bringing more entertainment to us, so I don't know what that means or how it's really gonna work, but I do know that Boardwalk Nights last year was a fantastic success, and they had all kinds of great performers that were happening during that. So if they do anything similar to that, I think it's definitely going to be in that positive for Cedar Point. I'd love to see another big stage show, and I'd also love to see them fill up like Lusty Lil's this year, and fill up the Jack Aldrich Theater and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to see that happen during the main season. We'll see what actually happens with it, but I'm very excited one way or another. And if you stay tuned to this channel, press that subscribe button, like button, all that kind of stuff, you will find out more about that as soon as possible, because as soon as the shows happen, if you've seen this channel before, you know that I'm right on the shows the second that they start. So do not miss the shows. Do what you love to do, but also do not miss the shows. They are a vital part of Cedar Point. Now, beyond that, we have Cedar Point Shores, which is another thing that you can do at Cedar Point. Cedar Point Shores is fantastic. It took me a while to get here in this video. It's a great place. It's filled with tons of slides. There are 2 different lazy rivers. There are several different pools with different activities for kids. One of them is like a frog leap kind of a thing for the kids to go through. Really, adults can go through it too, but I just look like a beluga whale trying to go over it, so it doesn't work for me. But yeah, it's tons of fun. There are a couple of drop slides where you stand inside them, and then the floor drops out from underneath you and you go really fast from the get-go. Going through that, there are a couple of, like there's a family slide also, which is a bigger, wider slide for you to go down. It definitely is fun. I've gotten to ride it several different times with friends. But my main thing that I love to do is the wave pool and the lazy rivers. And then also they do have 2 different bars. One of them is a swim up bar. The other one is Schooner's bar. They're both really, really fun, but the swim up bar I love. I know a lot of people love to say it's a pee pool. No one leaves to go to the bathroom when they're in that pool. Let's just be honest, every public pool is a pee pool. So I don't care if I'm drinking in it, that just makes me happier. So, and then inside there also are 2 different restaurants. You have Crystal Rock Cafe, and then there is one other also that has more like sandwiches, burgers kind of stuff inside of that. I don't remember what it's called right now. But yeah, there's a ton of fun stuff to do inside there. You also can bring in more stuff. I think you're allowed to bring in small coolers. So if you wanted to bring in like a little packed lunch, you can do that. And there are also some chairs and tables for you to eat at inside there too. So definitely fun. It's a great place to go. And also the meals inside of there, if you have the meal plan, do work with your meal plan also. Speaking of the meal plan, let's talk about the meal plan real fast, because we're going to be talking about where to eat or drink in just a second here. The meal plan is like $160, something like that, all together with tax. And all together throughout my time at Cedar Point, I got it down to like $1.90, something like that. Because I have a meal plan that works for every place also, because I have the All Park Passport. With the All Park Passport though, it is going to be slightly more expensive for you to buy the meal plan, because you're also going to be eating at other parks, not just at Cedar Point. But you can go as often as you want to go to any of the parks. You can eat there. The meals do cost between, usually it's about $16 now, up to about $22, unless their meal prices have changed and updated again this next year. We'll see if that is the case. This last year they stayed, I think, the same mostly. but the year before that, they grew pretty substantially. And that $22 mark is kind of their high point as of this year. Now, 2025, we'll see if that's a little bit different or not. Now, beyond that, they have a whole bunch of different restaurants. Now, I'm going to take you through these, and I'm just going to give you quick little impressions of what they seem like to me, just to see if it's something that you might like. I will be probably doing some sort of a ranking, talking about all these, and if that's something that you'd like to see, please let me know down below. We'll probably be ranking a lot of things at Cedar Point, so if you have other rankings, let me know down below also in the comments for those. But let's talk about some different places that you can eat at Cedar Point. So first of all, you have like the main meals. Cedar Point has, it's kind of divided into Cedar Point, the Marina, and Hotel Breakers for places that you can eat. Now, not all of these are meal plan friendly, but I will point to the ones that are meal plan. Actually, I'll tell you the ones that aren't, because most of them are meal plan friendly. Backbeat Q is a great place for barbecue, legit barbecue. And my daughter loves it. She hasn't even liked barbecue in the past, but she really loved it coming to Backbeat Q. They have some fantastic burnt ends are some of my favorite, and then the brisket also really, really good there. This last year, that was my favorite place. Now, I ranked it as like second or third initially in the year, but as the year went on, I was like, nah, Backbeat Q is definitely the best one. Grand Pavilion is also fantastic. I really like most stuff there. I've had one really terrible experience there, but other than that, it's always been fantastic. It's a great place to eat, and it also has beautiful views. Chickies and Pete's is really nice, not on the meal plan though. And it is more of that indoor eating, and people come and serve you. Grand Pavilion also is indoor eating, which is really nice too, and air conditioned, but they don't serve you there. Coasters is a great place for burgers. It's a pretty standard burger. Smash patty burgers. Derby Dogs is the worst thing I've ever had, and you could make it at home without any problem whatsoever. Frontier Inn is, again, the worst. I don't think I've ever eaten in a place that's been grosser than Frontier Inn, to be completely honest. Hugo's Italian Kitchen is fantastic, I think, but apparently the rest of y'all don't. Every time I've said it's really good, people are like, ew, that's trash Italian. Why would you say that? It's Italian food, and I have no standards, apparently. So I like that Italian food. So, I don't know, sue me. Miss Keith's Smokehouse is fantastic also. It used to be, I think, better with what they had at the time, but now it is more of like a Chipotle kind of a thing. Still very good. I like it a lot. Panda Express is, of course, what you know Panda Express to be. Every time you've had Panda Express, that's what they have here. They do give you less food than they used to. They used to give you two meats, I think that it was. Now they just give you one meat, and then of course your rice or whatever it is that you want. So it's not as much money, you don't get as much for it anymore, but for your pass anyway, but it's still very good, I think. Red Garter Saloon is, actually this last year I didn't get to eat there, but they have great entertainment in there, great bands that play, so if you can get some food and sit and eat there, then that's always fun also. Sagebrush Sue's, I think of that more as a place for snacks, but it does have like fried cheese and fried hot dogs, like a corn dog for you to have. So that's a good thing to have also. And then the Corral is another one where it's just not good. Even they have pizza there, but like Hugo's is right down the way, and the pizza that they have at Hugo's is far superior to what they have there. They give you like one piece, $16 for one piece of pizza and 2 breadsticks. It's pretty awful. Where if you go to Hugo's, you get quite a bit more for your money. Now, on top of that, they have the Marina. Now, from here, you get a lot of sit-down restaurants. If you want most sit-down restaurants, you're gonna have to go outside the park. The marina is a great place. It's delicious food, but also it's dated. So dated that it's coming back into style. It looks like it came right out of like 1992, but also it is like kind of cool again because it's come back around. So yeah, I mean, but you can tell it's aged, definitely. Now, I've heard that Famous Dave's is fantastic from so many people, but it's not something that I love. And to me, it seemed very expensive. Now, I'm there by myself usually, so I think buying things by yourself there is more expensive. But buying in bulk or like with a family for like a large platter meal is definitely cheaper. I think that's why. I'm not positive, but I think that's why. So, I mean, go check out Famous Dave's if you would like to. That may be an option for you also. On top of that, we have TGI Fridays at Hotel Breakers. We also have Tomo and Perkins. TGI Fridays is great. It has a nice little bar there too for you. It's definitely fun. Tomo, they are very, very heavy on the sake there. And I left flying after I did Tomo. But it's a great place. They demonstrate it for you. You know, it's a hibachi grill. And then they also have Perkins, which is great for breakfast. And I've eaten there a couple different times for breakfast, but it's your standard breakfast. I mean, it's what you get at Perkins when you go to Perkins, kind of like Panda Express. Not that it's like Panda Express, but that it is similar in that what you're going to get at Panda Express is what you're going to get at Panda Express at Cedar Point. It's the same thing with Perkins. The beach. Now, the beach is definitely a fun place to be able to go. Definitely worthwhile. And the reason why it's worthwhile is because Cedar Point was built on its beach. You cannot go to Cedar Point and not hit the beach, in my opinion. You have to go get out there at some point. I love to go out there. I try to get a little bit of a tan, try to make myself feel a little bit better, and I love just walking down the beach, having a drink in my hand, and just walking through the waves. Like, that is one of my favorite things to do. It's definitely worthwhile for me, and I think you need to try it also, as long as you're overage. Around the area. Cedar Point has all kinds of stuff around the area. Actually, it's becoming more and more and more of a tourist area, which I think is really fun. They have Kalahari, they have Great Wolf Lodge, they have Sandusky's like mini golf. There's several mini golf right there, mini golf spots right there. And then actually right across the street from it is Ghostly Manor, which is this activity center with places to roller skate. They have VR stuff. They have they have a couple different like rides that you can ride. They also have a haunted house inside it. They have more haunted houses during Halloween also. And then they have a glow-in-the-dark mini golf area also. They also have like a bouncy area, bouncy house area, I guess, where kids can play. Like, there's just a ton of fun stuff for you and your family to do inside of that activity center. On top of that, Sandusky also has a vibrant downtown. Now, a lot of people who go to Sandusky, I don't think realize that downtown is as vibrant as it is. It's worthwhile to go check out. They have axe throwing, and they have multiple different restaurants. They have kind of where the axe throwing is. It's like a little mall inside of that, which doesn't quite feel like a mall. I don't quite know how to explain it, but I have actually filmed a video of that too. So you can go check that out also if you'd like to see that. I went in the off season to go check out downtown Sandusky. It was a lot of fun. It's definitely a worthwhile place to go check out. But yeah, lots of bars and restaurants also downtown, and several of them were pretty decent. So again, worthwhile to go check out on an off day at Cedar Point. Now beyond that, we also have Lake Erie Islands right around that area. And Lake Erie Islands would consist of Put-in Bay, mainly Put-in Bay and Kelly's Island. There are multiple other islands beyond that, so it'd be worthwhile to go check out any of those, but those are the two most prominent. And Put-in Bay is basically like a huge island full of nightlife. There is a concert on every single place, every single bar that you go to, there's a concert happening inside of it. You have live entertainment everywhere, and lots of people dancing, lots of different places to grab a drink. It's worthwhile to go check out. It's really fun. And also, again, some fantastic food that you can also get. So yeah, definitely a really fun place to go check out for that. I have done a full video of going for island hopping across Lake Erie. So go check that out if you'd like to see what that island is like. Also, my brother and I have done a little bit of exploring of Put-in Bay, and it's definitely been fun to hang out with him there. I also was able to go check out Kelly's Island, and Kelly's Island is a bit more sedate, but still has a similar vibe to Put-in Bay. It's just a little bit less developed and has a fewer things happening inside it. So definitely go check that one out also if you'd like to. Beyond that, they also have Port Clinton and Catawba, which are both kind of island towns to some degree. You can access ferries to get to the islands from them. And both of them have kind of rebuilding downtowns with lots of stuff inside it that they're trying to get going. So it's worthwhile to go check those out too. Also a lot of different little places with live music and stuff in all of those too. So yeah, definitely a fun place to go check out. For an off day at Cedar Point, those are the best places to go see. Definitely worthwhile, and they give kind of more of an island vibe. I mean, obviously they are islands, but there are very few places in Ohio that feel like Hawaii to me. And I did get to go visit Hawaii years and years ago, but Hawaii has a very distinct flavor, and especially Put-in Bay kind of captures a little piece of that in Ohio, which I think is kind of fun to go check that out also. Schedule. With so much to do around the area, I think there is a lot of stuff that's worthwhile to expand your trip to Cedar Point and to the surrounding area. It's worthwhile to have a couple of days that can just be flex days where you can go where you want to do. So for me, my recommendation for people who are coming who can only schedule one trip to Cedar Point and to that area is to schedule that for at least 3 days. If you can get 3 days off, which really would only take 1 day off, and then you'd have Saturday and Sunday also, and then drive back home on Monday. If you have 3 days for that trip, you can go to Cedar Point one day, you can hit the water park one day, and probably in the middle, you can do a beach day where you can relax, / you can also go sightseeing, maybe go hit some islands, do some fun stuff with that. So your day and your trip doesn't have to be as packed and constant. And then also when the water park closes, then you can go back to Cedar Point and you can ride whatever rides you were not able to complete on the first day. Now, I'm not sure that would be my actual recommendation though. My actual recommendation, if I were doing a trip and only had one week to schedule off and do all of that, is to have 1 day of driving and then to do 2 days of riding all that Cedar Point has to offer, have 1 day for the water park, have 1 day for area sightseeing, and then have 1 day for rest. Again, put that right in the middle. 1 day for rest goes right in the middle, so you could maybe have a day to ride rides, a day for water park, a day for rest, a day to ride rides, and a day to sightsee, something like that. Definitely worthwhile to get that time out on the beach, to get that time on the islands, to get that time going to Ghostly Manor. Whatever it is that you want to do, take advantage of that and being able to spend as much time with you and your family and not make it be just a relentless day of constantly having to work out stuff. Now, another thing that I find too is a lot of people want to come to Cedar Point and they want to buy Fastlanes. So they will buy a Fastlane for 2 days for every single person in their party, and they'll come for 3 days. 2 of those days they have a Fastlane, or let's just say even one of those days they have a Fastlane for, and they need to do it for that whole group. But if you're a party of 3 people, you've spent $570 or something like that. What was it? $510 for your entire group to get Fastlanes. And that's if that Fastlane was only $170, which often it's more than $170. So if you're spending that much money, $510, it's so much easier, especially if you all have passes, just to say, no, instead we're gonna take another day or 2 and we're going to buy a hotel for us at $200 for 2 extra days, and then that rounds you out to 5 days rather than 3 days for your family vacation, and then you get more days to try to accomplish the rides that you haven't done. So what I would say you need to do then is you need to, you get to ride Top Thrill 2 and you get to ride Steel Vengeance on your first day, and maybe you get to ride a handful of others. Well, whatever you didn't get to ride that next day, maybe that next day is Siren's Curse Day and it's Millennium Force Day. And those are the rides that you focus on, and then you ride whatever else you can after that. That way then you're getting so much more time, and you're not having to stress out about, we spent $500 on these tickets today. We're going to ride every single ride. We're not gonna stop, we're not gonna relax. Stop going to the bathroom so many times, Trent. And instead, you need to come ride more rides with us, because we have to get these all done, because we've spent $500 on this day, which means this day is important. You don't have as much riding on each individual day, which means you can relax. You can go see a show, you can go hang out on the beach for a little bit, you can go luxuriate in the bathroom if you want to, you can go ride some water rides, you can go relax, do the things you want to do, stay in the hotel for half a day because you're too tired from the last couple of days. Like, allow yourself that little bit of time to relax and luxuriate, rather than being so worried about, we spent this money, we have to do it now, we have to get everything done today. This is our only option because we bought Fastlanes. Instead, spread that money out and use it to make your trip longer. Since I know you guys are planning your trips right now, plan a longer trip, not a more perfect trip. It doesn't need to be a Fastlane trip. It can be just a longer trip and get more stuff done with it. Inside the park. Inside Cedar Point now, there are 2 new pieces to the puzzle. And that 2 new pieces is going to be Top Thrill 2, which only opened for at most a week this last year. And then also it is going to be Siren's Curse. And Siren's Curse is going to be a total wild card, because I don't really know what to compare it to specifically, because it's opening in the middle of the year. So the way that's going to change Cedar Point, I'm really uncertain about. But the beginning of the year is going to look somewhat similar to last year. So we at least know that much in our frame of reference. Now, my recommendation for you inside the park to figure out what your itinerary is going to be is, you need to divide, for you and your family, all of the rides into long, medium, and short lines. Now, I'm actually going to be doing this in a future video, so we'll really be talking about which ones are which then. But for right now, I'm gonna talk about just what I think it might look like. I do think by the end of the year, Siren's Curse is gonna take the most from the rides around it. But I do think that Millennium Force has enough staying power that I think it's gonna continue to be really big. I do think, because Valraven and Siren's Curse are very similar type rides, and they're both right next to each other, they're gonna cancel each other out a little bit. So I think Valraven's gonna be less popular, and Siren's Curse is going to be substantially popular. So the long lines, and therefore the priorities that you are going to need to be paying attention to, are going to be Top Thrill 2, Siren's Curse, Millennium Force, and Steel Vengeance. Of course, that's given that Cedar Point is going to open Siren's Curse in the middle of summer, which I'm sure they will. And of course, that is me assuming that you want to ride those rides. If you don't want to ride those rides, that doesn't mean that this is irrelevant to you. What you need to be thinking about is what the longest line is going to be out of the rides that you are wanting to ride the most. So if you have someone in your family, create a list of each person, like Susie wants to ride this ride, and Henry wants to ride this ride, and so on and so on. Get everybody to tell you what their favorite ride is, what the ride is that they want to ride the most at Cedar Point. And then figure out which rides of those are going to have the longest lines. Those are your priorities. The longest lines are going to be the priorities that you have to get done. That doesn't mean you have to get them done right at that moment, but it does mean that you have to get them done throughout the day. So that's where I'll come in, and I will be giving some more strategies in a future video about how to figure out which rides have the longest lines, shortest lines, all that kind of stuff. What kind of priority are they? And are they more of like a filler attraction, or are they a priority attraction? Now, another part to this also, beyond just prioritizing your lines, is what the early park entry rides are. Now, this is assuming that you have a gold pass with an all access pass on it also, meaning you can go to any of the parks in the Cedar Fair or Six Flags chain, and or you have a prestige pass. If you have a prestige pass with the all access pass or not with the all access pass, then you are going to be able to get in early to Cedar Point. Now, early access rides over the last 2 years have been Gatekeeper, Millennium Force, Iron Dragon, and Wild Mouse. And before those 2 years, it was also Millennium Force. So I'm sure Millennium Force will be on this, but I'm just conservatively assuming that Cedar Point is going to continue with the same rides as their early park entry rides. We'll see if that's the case. Maybe they're gonna have real guts and they're gonna put Top Thrill 2 up there or something else. We'll see, but I think they're gonna probably wanna stick with the similarity of what they've already had because they've gotten used to that flow for what they do. My guess is going to be that they're still going to have Gatekeeper, Millennium Force, Iron Dragon, and Wild Mouse as their early park entry. So my educated itinerary that I think you probably should go with is, and I'm just assuming at this point, we're all coming in at park opening, not early park entry. Now, early park entry would change things because I would recommend hitting Millennium Force first, trying to get there as quickly as possible. You know, get in line before even early park entry starts, and then you're the first people into the park altogether. Once you get that done, then you go use the rest of your time with the other 4 attractions that are open. There are also a couple of flat rides, I think, that are open too, like the Himalaya, I think might be open. So you could go do some of those also, but go hit Wild Mouse and go hit Gatekeeper in that first hour, do as much as you can. But we're gonna bypass that all right now and just assume that that's not the case. So without early park entry, enter through the Magnum Gate, you go straight back to Top Thrill 2. At that point, you get done with that ride as long as it's gonna take, and you go back towards Steel Vengeance, but you skip Steel Vengeance because Steel Vengeance gets low lines at night and it's going to have a long line early on in the morning. So instead you go hit Maverick. Once you're done with Maverick, you go to Farmhouse Kitchen and Grill. Now this does not include any kind of fast lanes, nothing like that. You're not getting any perks here. All of those things are going to change your itinerary pretty dramatically, and that's why you should watch my channel, because I try all of this stuff out and you will see me do it over and over and over again. So it'll give you the best ability to understand what's actually gonna happen when you're in the park. From that point, once you're done with lunch at the farmhouse, you go hit Magnum, because Magnum will just be starting to get longer lines because it waits for a long time. People don't worry about Magnum being a huge priority, so they end up hitting it later, which means it gets lines after lunch, really around like 2 o'clock. That's when it really starts hitting its high point in lines. So you don't want to wait that long. You want to hit it maybe around noon and you'll be fine. You can maybe hit corkscrew after that point if you like punishment and you're that sadistic, or you can go straight over to Iron Dragon and hit that ride. Now, after that point, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet and hit a few bigger lines. Probably those bigger lines would be like Valraven, Millennium Force, actually waiting for those. Both of those are going to have longer lines almost no matter what. And even if you use a Fastlane on Millennium Force, you still have to wait a long time, even on Millennium Force, no matter what, because the Fastlane queue connects to Millennium Force's queue, regular queue, really early on, which means you have to wait a good 20 minutes one way or another, whether you have Fastlane or not. Now, you could not do coasters during that time and just hit filler attractions during the like bite the bullet time, but I mean, you gotta be riding something, otherwise, why are you there? Or go see some shows, and that's always a worthwhile thing also. After that, go hit Wild Mouse. Hopefully you can find a dwindling line time for Gatekeeper, because Gatekeeper gets pretty big right around noon, 1 o'clock anyway, but it starts to settle down right around 3 or 4 usually. And then you can go grab a drink and a meal also at the pavilion. Hit a couple of flat rides on the way back up to the back of the park towards Steel Vengeance. Maybe even hit Cedar Creek Mine Ride on the way, and then go hit Steel Vengeance as like your last thing of the night. Now, there's a good chance you would likely be able to do a lot more than that, but this is a very loose itinerary to give you an idea of kind of the path that you can take around the park. Usually, I end up taking a very circular path around the park, and sometimes I take that path multiple times. I walk around in a circle 3 or 4 times, which is why I end up with 35,000 steps in a day, things like that, which is another thing you should be prepared for. Make sure you have some good shoes that you've walked in a lot before, so that you're ready to go, and so that your feet are not blistering to absolute oblivion by the end of the day. Or get a scooter to take if you have a really bad shoe that's not working very well. Like I said, all of this stuff will be tested by me. You'll see it happen over and over and over on this channel, and I can't wait to be doing it. Of course, I've got months to wait until then, unfortunately, but that's why right now I get to prepare us all for what's going to happen when May comes and we're ready to start getting to Cedar Point and riding rides and doing all that stuff. This is the perfect time to plan for you guys, and that's where I come in. So those are my thoughts. What did I miss, and what kinds of things would you like to add? Please add them down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys down there, because I know that the things that I say are not absolute gospel. And I know that a lot of times you guys have ideas that end up working a lot better than what I've said. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. And you're not just helping me, you're helping other people who are looking for what's best that they can do at Cedar Point. So contradictory opinions are definitely valued in this comment section. So go check that out. If you are wanting to tell me some other things that may be good options, I'd love to hear that from you guys also. Also, today, all this stuff is early on in the season, and there are several key factors that are out. For instance, early park entry is not out yet. I don't know what it's going to be for 2025, so I'm trying to get this out to give you guys as much of an idea as possible of what's going to happen, but there are some things that are going to change. As it changes, if you see that it's changed, please leave comments down below in the comment section for us to be able to figure out what's changed. I will also be making additional videos, and you can also go check out my Instagram and Twitter about any additional stuff that's going on too. Of course, you should definitely follow Cedar Point on Twitter, follow Tony Clark on Twitter. Those are going to be great main sources for you to know what's actually happening at Cedar Point and get it as quickly as possible. But yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and if you are subscribed here, I'll let you guys know as quickly as I find out things, what things are different than maybe I would have expected, and we'll go from there, and I'll give you as much information as possible. Like I said, if you press that join button also, then you will find things. If I have several videos, like today, I'm filming 3 videos all at one time. If I have several videos that are going to need to be released, then you will find those videos very, very quickly, and you can immediately, as soon as I get done publishing those videos, I put them straight on to members only. So you're supporting the channel that way, but you're also getting as much information as quickly as possible at your fingertips before anybody else on this channel. So go check that out. Also, I make specific videos just for you guys too. So you can look out for those also. And there's also voting rights and all kinds of stuff. You'll see it. So thank you guys so much though for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please let me know what else you guys want to see in this off season, because I'll be making all kinds of additional content for you guys right now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and let's go. Hey, thanks for watching. I release theme park related videos at least a couple times a week, so press that subscribe button if you made it this far. Also, check out similar videos in the playlist to the right, or find my newest video to the left. Thanks again, and let's go!